that a good plan?
Yeah.
Never I've been on before. And I'll make my tea while you press the 10 minute to go to live thing.
Everything's
And we're
on.
live.
I'm just trying to do a thing over here.
Everything's on. You do a thing. I'll do the intro. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week in art stream, media stream thing, blah, 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 whatever the fuck this is. Exciting things happening this week, I'm sure. I say my monotone voice, my monotone radio voice. Yep. Joining us this week, of course, is myself, Zach, better known as V, and DW, better known as DW, Digital Whiskey. Yes, there we go. Hope everyone's had a nice week. We've been having the green room party beforehand, drinking lots of tea and reading the news. Discussing our film watches of the last week. I watched But I'm a Cheerleader with my daughter. It was very, very good. And The Mighty Boosh, and a bunch of other stuff. Bob's Burgers was the other one that came up. Yeah, we started trying to watch Twin Peaks, but you have to concentrate, so it doesn't work because Matilda wanted to draw. If you want to draw, you can't watch Twin Peaks and draw at the same time. It doesn't work. Twin Peaks is a pay attention kind of TV series. Yep. How do you know you're watching something interesting?
Have you shown Spirited Away to her?
Oh yeah, she's an avid fan of all of the Miyazaki films. Yep. The only one I've never sat down and watched with her because she's still a little is Akira. Yep. She's watched all of the other sort of like kids, not really kids, but somehow kids ones. Yeah, but I have not sat. The only one that, like on the record is I haven't watched with her is Akira because it's just a bit too fucking violent in places still. Yeah. But that's all right. One day it'll come on at the one day it'll come on the Valhalla. One day the Valhalla will be a thing. The Valhalla being a picture house that was in Sydney in Glebe that was around when I was a child. And then some fucker decided to destroy it for some unknown reason. Yep. Yeah, one day it'll come up.
Very ugly apartment building there.
I think that's what they did too. I think it was knocked down for a very ugly apartment building, which is a shame because it was one of those very iconic bits of. You don't get a lot of great Australian architecture. Like it's not in 200 years you don't get anywhere with architecture. So the only interesting things we have are like very, very old huts, and then some interesting Art Nouveau stuff that happened, and then like Queenslanders. Like there's kind of an interesting bit of like introspection about like the shape of Irish houses, Irish work cottages in Australia, but it's not that interesting really. But yeah, but there's a few nice Art Nouveau buildings. Yeah, but most of them are knocked down when they come to end of life, which is a bit fucking silly. But that's okay because I live in a country where you can't actually build an apartment block and have it expect to exist anymore after 5 years. It's insane. DW highlighted his work this week of pulling out some lights, didn't you? That was a bit of fun, pulling out lights.
Yes, big industrial hall.
Big industrial fucking jobbies. They were fun.
Yet again, that's well, this time it's another undisclosed industrial facility.
Yep.
Remove the 400 watts gas discharge rocket nozzles, and put on a UV, well, a big black pancake LED that's only 140 watts.
Yep.
If you look at the thing, it's kind of it's just amazing what the LED is. It's like it's a flat panel of a round PCB.
Yep.
With some LEDs on it, a big cooling fin on the back.
Yeah, yeah.
And then a power transformer, and that's it. And the old ones, they're like a big converter, a big reflector, a big giant glass bulb.
Yep.
High voltage, high frequency, high pressure inside, mercury, and all sorts of other fun stuff in there. Now it's just flat plates with some stuff soldered to it.
It's insane, isn't it? It's insane. It's sort of insane how far we've gone in such a when was the LED invented? 1950 something or other. It's a 20th century invention for sure. But inside of 70 years, let's say, we've gone from them being like, brand new to being like, everywhere.
Wasn't it that like the real proper power LEDs that was it the blue LEDs that was like late 90s,
They were,
early 2000s.
yeah,
I
blue
think.
LEDs were much later, but the first
Yeah,
LED was invented like much earlier on.
Oh yeah, those red ones were like yeah, early 60s probably.
I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to look on Wikipedia. First production was in October of 1962, which was 62 years ago. There you go. The inventor was actually invented them in 1907. His or their name was H.J. Round. Yep.
Oh yeah.
The person who actually invented the thing we call an LED was Nick Holonyak in 1962, and James R. Bard in 1961. Yep.
If
Ah.
talking about weird little light bulb histories, have you looked into the guy that made the first like those little neon indicator bulbs you see on
No.
orange ones you see on power
Yep.
switches? That's also a fun Wikipedia read. It's like, how did this guy die? It's like the wackiest shit, man.
A bit like the guy that invented both CFCs and lead in petrol.
Yeah, lead in petrol. That wasn't a
Yeah.
good invention.
It was the same guy. One guy invented
Yeah.
CFCs and lead in petrol.
Oh, right.
So did untold, environmental damage.
Ecological damage.
Yeah. But then, because he had a degenerative muscle disease,
From the lead or from the CFCs?
no, he built
Yes.
he built himself like an apparatus to get him out of bed with all ropes and pulleys and shit, right?
Yeah.
And managed to strangle himself to death in it.
Right.
So he did all this environmental damage, tore a hole in the ozone layer, destroyed the the quality of our air, and then managed to kill himself with yet another invention.
And then killed himself, get out of bed. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Thought you'd like
I
that.
would like to point out that yes, he invented all that stuff, but keep in mind there are also massive corporations behind
Oh,
him
yeah.
that went,
Oh yeah, that decided to do
hey,
it.
we can make
Yeah,
some
yeah,
money with
yeah,
that.
Yeah.
And
Which
you
is
don't
more
hear from
which is
them
more
and you don't
effective?
get any blame.
Going to the top of Dow Chemicals and cutting the head off of it, or killing one scientist who whose fucking discovery was misused and destroy the ecology. Which one's more effective? I'd say Dow Chemicals needs to go away. Bye. Yeah.
But wasn't it like the lead in the petrol is used to prevent knocking?
Yeah.
But didn't we already
But we
figure out
didn't we didn't need to
that we
because
can just use ethanol? Yeah.
ethanol had already been invented, and ethanol engines are much more efficient in terms of it was only because it was like spouting out of the fucking ground in America that it ever went that way. Yeah. It was a waste product, and they wanted to, therefore it was easier to pull it out of the ground as a waste product, and then therefore use distillate and therefore petrol, than it was to like grow fields of whatever to make fucking ethanol. And there's there's something to be said for the fact that ethanol comes from food sources and etc etc, and therefore shouldn't we just be eating the thing? But then there's also the fact of, well, we're not supposed to be digging up like ancient fucking kelp remains from whatever and then burning them, because that's not how the fucking world works. We are destroying the planet. Yeah. Yep.
Ah man, the planet is fine. The thin crust on top of it that sustains all of human life is changing in a way that does
Changing.
not benefit us.
Yeah. Yep.
The world
With
is
my with my
fine. We
with
on
my
the
with
other
my
hand,
with my yeah with my 2 degrees of warming this year. Thanks, my planet's great. Fuck off.
ah man,
My tea is
no,
especially good
seriously,
today.
the planet doesn't care. We have
Yeah.
a problem. The
We
planet
we
not
have a
so
problem.
much.
Yep. Yep.
There is a difference, and
Alas.
it's an important difference.
Yep. Has Zach finished doing what Zach is doing in the background?
No, I haven't, because
Oh.
I'm on a stupid tablet.
Why does that not? Okay. I'm sorry you're on a stupid tablet.
Well, it doesn't have a $sign.
It doesn't have a $sign.
No.
That's because it's
On
set
the
to
keyboard.
that's because it's set to GB. That's because it's set to GB. That's the reason why. We're being very inefficient with our stream. That's all right. I'm sure the lovers and the fighters will will be fine. What the fuck is that about? God, YouTube's a pile of shit. Why do I have to log in to
Oh.
fucking check the stream? Fucking annoying.
You can't do any typing either. No, my Wi-Fi password has got a bunch of $signs on it.
Right.
And because
You heard it here first, kids. If you're gonna hack into Zach's Wi-Fi, then it's got some $signs in it.
And thus we know Zach is actually in secret a capitalist.
Yeah.
The secret.
Yeah. Exactly right. Exactly right.
Yeah, I'm a secret capitalist.
Yeah,
It's
he's
really,
actually
really working out for me. Yeah.
He's actually a billionaire. No one knows this. Yeah, we haven't quite worked this out yet. Yeah, that's where all the funding comes from for the show. Is Zach's billions. Yeah.
I don't want to kink shame if you have a poverty fetish. You do you, but it's a bit weird.
Yeah. Mind you, the 90s and the early 2000s were basically the whole fucking thing was just a poverty kink, wasn't it? The whole heroin chic being just part of it. Yep. Let's all walk around like fucking gaunt fucking starving people.
I can't fix this. I can't fucking fix
Well,
it.
Get a bigger hammer.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, the thing here richly deserves it.
Yep. Go on, Zach. What's your first bit of media for the week? What have you brought for this week?
I have brought the TV show Northern Exposure.
We were talking about this yesterday, the day before.
Day before.
The day before.
Okay,
I haven't started watching it yet.
Northern Exposure is
about
a New York doctor that gets, after getting a bursary to study medicine, he's just qualified as a doctor, just done his residency, so he's a qualified GP. Turns out that he's got a 4-year sort of residency to do at the hospital's choice of locations, and they pick for him the tiny town. It's like a 1-street town of Sicily, Alaska. And I thought it might be nice to watch Americans being fun and friendly as an antidote to what's going on in the world at the moment.
From talking to you the other day, I must admit it still makes me want to move to Alaska as a place.
It's a really good TV series. The characters are brilliant because that's all there is. There's scenery and characters. Nothing massive happens. Like literally nothing of import happens in the entire series. There's 6 seasons of it. It's well worth watching. It's pretty funny, but it's kind of like weird. It's kind of like Twin Peaks if Twin Peaks was a comedy.
A friend has turned up. You come for a visit.
So yeah, it's a very, very good TV series. The first episode is the worst, weirdly. So the pilot is just awful, but then it gets good.
Cool. Well, there you go. To be stolen where you steal your media from.
Yeah. And a lot of people.
And is having a cuddle.
Divicast went offline a few weeks ago, so you might want to check out S-Flix. That's S for Sierra, F for Foxtrot, L for Lima, I for India, X for X-ray. Just type that in and see where the internet takes you.
Just see if that works. And if you live behind a ginormous firewall, like in the country of Australia or numerous other countries who have a giant firewall, change your DNS server to 9.9.9.9, and that will fix all the problems for you.
Or if you want to get around it without any hassle at all, set it. Install Opera, switch on the VPN, and set your location to America.
Yep. The land of the free, where everything is stolen from. Yeah.
Well, it's the land of the free as far as we're concerned. We nick shit from there all the time.
It's true. It's completely
you might as
true.
I mean, Northern Exposure's like 1990s TV.
Yeah.
But basically, I think it's a good TV series, but it's just a good bit of escapism. But literally, they've had their money off it now.
Yeah.
And they're now dicking with the world's economy, so we're now technically too poor to actually buy subscriptions, so we're not going to.
Subscriptions. Yep. Yep.
Go fuck yourself. And Disney just got, is it Disney? Amazon just got hold of the James Bond franchise. So expect a shit
Oh, did
James
they?
Bond movie coming your way soon.
Did they? I was listening to the rest of entertainment with Marina. I want to say it's Marina Hayes, but I could have wrong. She's a journalist, works at Guardian as well. Marina, and she was talking in the last week's episode about the whole James Bond thing, and I was wandering around the house cleaning up, doing stuff in my house before my small person arrived, and they were talking about the whole Bond franchise and how it's controlled by two people, like two people own the exact exclusive rights, and then it's like and all they want to do is make like good James Bond films, which is why I mean,
well,
that's why there are so many.
Maybe they should start.
Yeah, it's just like yeah. But no, it's just like it's one of those weird things of what's good for some people is like just hideous fucking media for others.
As a franchise, it's kind of dull, really.
Well, but I think but like okay, so like comparing it to other things in the field, right? Like so you go back to like watching original like Connery like era Bond films when they were like a bit more fucking interesting, I feel. Right, and at the same time, you've got, let's say, at the same time that was being made, you've got things like, I'm trying to think of like films that involve war and are interesting. So for me, Barry Lyndon, right, fucking epic, right, one of the best fucking things ever. You could go with, what's it called? There's all those fucking Nazi propaganda films, The Battle of the Bulge, which is set from the Nazis' point of view type thing, and then you've got The Eagle Has Landed. The Guns of Navarone, like all these things. I mean, this just goes to my theory about they can't make fucking movies anymore. But like, even compared to the Bond stuff, that stuff was still better. Like, it was still more engaging and more fucking interesting type thing. And you're spanning like, fucking, The Guns of Navarone was made in the '60s, and then like The Eagle Has Landed was made in '85. I want to say.
Well, the main thing about those
20 years
movies,
of TV in there, 20 years of movies in there type thing.
Those sort of very recent war movies, like the World War II stuff, like A Bridge Too Far and The Longest Day.
Yeah,
is a lot of the people that were in those films have been in the war.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the mad thing, there were literally on A Bridge Too Far. They had like a whole bunch of the officers that were like very famously there, like the higher echelon officers.
Yeah,
as like technical consultants.
Yeah.
To the point where my favourite line from A Bridge Too Far was never actually said. There's a bit where the Germans are rolling over a bridge, and the Panzer commander sort of like from the top of his tank goes, "We're here to discuss terms for surrender," because the Paras are well outnumbered. They're like, it's stupid. They've got like a couple of Bren guns and rifles and shit. They're fucked against armored infantry. And what they wanted to have was have the commander of that detachment of Paras to say, "I'm very sorry, we can't possibly provide facilities for all of you as prisoners of war," in a very funny way. And it turned out that the chap that they thought had said it hadn't. So he refused to let the actor playing him say that line.
Yeah.
So they actually got somebody who was like not traditionally a speaking role, just one of the corporals that had only had a couple of lines talking to the commander, going down and shouting out, "I'm sorry," that actual line. So it was actually apocryphal, but it was one of my favourite lines in the movie. Which would bring us to another piece of media. There is a YouTube channel called History Buffs that reviews movies in their historical content. So they actually does research into stuff like that. And it's very interesting to see what he likes and doesn't like about historical movies. For example, Master and Commander, which is a brilliant movie, has nothing to do with reality. It's a novel. It's complete fiction as a book.
Well,
and then
it has nothing to do with real life, but it is based around you only have to look at it and then do a precursory look at the journey of James Cook coming to Australia and doing the whole tracking the fucking Venus type thing, to realize that these things were happening, like that was happening as a fucking thing. The British were sending out fucking were sending out fucking ships all the fucking time to go and do stuff.
Absolutely. And that was the point on History Buffs. It's an amazing film because everything, how they do everything and how everything looks and how it all works is astonishingly accurate. But it doesn't take place. It doesn't take place in reality. So
in reality,
that
yeah.
was really interesting. So he does reviews of films like Waterloo and Zulu and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And he did a review of Marie Antoinette, which you mentioned earlier.
Yep.
And that is a really interesting YouTube channel for the actual sort of like somebody just fact checking historical movies.
Yep.
Not necessarily war movies, but I mean, a lot of historical movies have to do with big change events in history. So,
Yep.
yeah, so check out History Buffs on YouTube. It's very good. The bloke who presents it's really good.
Yeah. Cool beans. GW, without putting you on the spot, did you have a bit of media that you'd seen this week that you wanted to talk about?
Nothing comes to mind,
You
unfortunately.
didn't do the
That's fine.
homework.
Didn't do the homework. He's the only one in the chat that went to work this week. So, like,
Yeah,
you know,
there
to
is
be
that.
honest, fuck us.
The only person
You
with
know,
an actual life.
I pulled my bookshelf apart. I've got every single book in my fucking bookshelf to think about. Was I just looked at the cover of all of them, type thing. Yeah. Yeah. I am going to mention it actually. I've got one which is on my I've just started reading it. I did write it up in the chat. Tim Winton's latest novel, and normally I don't go for latest novels, but so far it's been a bit of an addictive read. Tim Winton's Juice. It's just been released in hardback, I want to say, and it is a great little romp. I think he's Australian. I don't know for sure, but I think he's Australian author. And it's a bit of a post-apocalyptic what's happened after climate change has come along type thing. Great little. I'm only about halfway through. I'm about halfway through the second chapter, I want to say. And I won't spoil it for you, but yeah, so far, fucking interesting stuff. It's the closest thing I can give you as being like, imagine someone had written a good book about. Imagine someone had written the good book of the first Mad Max film, the good Mad Max film, before Mad Max was made, and this would be the book of it type thing in terms of like intrigue and what's going on and political and like sociological outcomes of bits and pieces. Yeah. Don't bother to watch anything beyond the first Mad Max film, or if you do, then don't view them as being the same thing.
Oh, I think the second one's all right. And the third one has its moments. Long time ago in history back.
Yeah, no, there's interesting moments in the third one, right? But in terms of like if you go and watch the original, like go watch the original, like the original one, right? And then like put your fucking film brain on and pick it apart, what's going on in the film and what they're talking about, da da da. And then you go and watch number 2 or number 3, and you're like, what the fuck did this person do with what the fuck had happened?
The first one,
you know,
is basically a Sam Peckinpah sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
So it's it's unassailable. It's always going to be a good B movie, up there with A Boy and His Dog, and stuff like that. Just like really visceral and horrific.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wasn't that into Fury Road.
No, I mean, again, I see it as being like, I am fascinated with last week we were talking about Lord of the Rings. We won't go back there this week. I think it was last week we were talking about Lord of the Rings. We're still in disagreement about Lord of the Rings. I'll point out this will never change. But in the same way that you find the making of Lord of the Rings interesting, I find the making of the modern Mad Max films absolutely fucking fascinating in terms of like what they did and how they did it and the tie-ins with other media forms and blah 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 when they made like Fury Road and like it's just, that to me is just some of the most interesting stuff that someone's ever put a background camera film on and said go and fucking record people in interview and go around and talk to other people in the sphere type thing. In the sphere of this film being made. That was all interesting to me. But again, it's not going back to like what I think of being the best Mad Max film, which is number 1, and then going like, you did anything interesting with this. It's like, it's not, yeah. But it's the same, like, that's the same with the fucking Bond films. The first Bond film, like, that's based on that's actually based, like, in the fucking books. Absolutely fucking fascinating.
But I think
subsequent Bond films, fucking boring.
Well, they're all, like, largely crappy from 21st century eyes.
Yeah.
If you want, it depends what you want. If you want like a kind of gripping, mildly comedic, absurdist spy thriller, go and watch the Harry Palmer movies. There's 5 of them. It's like working class James Bond. I mean, like in one of the more recent ones, I think it's the first Daniel Craig one where she calls him a misogynist dinosaur.
Yeah,
You know,
I think that's right.
You know, where M, played by Judi Dench, literally kicks off
Yep.
at Bond.
Yeah.
I think there's a level of realism to the modern ones that are kind of like the Bourne Identity kind of thing. There's no gadgets. There's no.
I was gonna bring up the Bourne Identity. Yep,
But if
keep
you
going.
want sort of basically weird sci-fi, you know, just watch, I don't know, The Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker, because they're just fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I mean,
And
they
they're good-
tried to
they're
bring
good
back
because
the
they're
ridiculous
ridiculous.
with GoldenEye and Die Another Day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now they've gone to the Daniel Craig one, which are hyper realistic.
Yeah,
So you'd have to be a very different. I mean, in the 1960s, yes, the whole swinging 60s, almost Austin Powers level of James Bond in the 60s was basically fun escapism, and it was in color, and it was the big movie to watch that summer in an era when TV was mostly black and white. We didn't really have color TV until the mid to late 70s as a general rule. So Bond is one of those things that's of its time, and you could probably write a university paper on the anthropological change of James Bond, reflecting people's tastes and opinions of today. So you can literally follow tastes and opinions with Bond movies, because they always try and include some of the zeitgeist. That's how they've done it. But if you then go and try and read the James Bond novels, they're all ghastly. They're badly written. They've got nothing to do with the movies that are supposedly based on them. They literally just took titles from James Bond movies. There's literally no sci-fi elements to James Bond at all. And James Bond is even more of a misogynist homophobe in the books. You could not make a James Bond movie from an Ian Fleming novel and have it. I mean, unless you just wanted to troll. If you had so much money, you just thought, I'm going to make a James Bond movie that's true to the books, and everybody's going to hate it. And that's basically what it is. I mean, literally, Bond goes on about how gay men can't whistle, and that's how you know if someone's gay or not. That's the Bond. You know, the quote is, as far as Bond was concerned, the best drink of the day was the one that he was making while he was thinking about what the first drink of the day was going to be. Just an alcoholic womanizer. But weirdly, Ian Fleming was in MI6. So
isn't it funny though like I always find it strange that thank you, Tiny Kitten, wherever Tiny Kitten's gone nuts. That the Claire novels, like Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, and then Smiley's People, and there's more in that series of
those are amazingly accurate.
Amazingly accurate to what was actually going on, and the mundanity of modern spy shit type thing. It's all about like the internal political intrigue, what's going on, but much more. But then they made them into they famously made them into like very, very good TV series with like is it Guinness? Alex Guinness who plays Guinness, Smiley? Yeah. And just absolutely I will go back and watch those again and again and again, even though I know what the fuck is going on. So it's just that what do you want? Do you want escapism, or do you want something good?
I mean, so I would say if you wanted a complete palate cleanser, you could watch The Spy Who Loved Me, which is the most ridiculous James Bond film ever made, as far as gadgetry and stupidity goes. Like it's got a really terrible plot. It's got the most ridiculous gadgets. And then watch the Ipcress File with Michael Caine, and then watch Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. So you've got like a sort of like a slow lead up to actual reality. I mean, the thing I like about Harry Palmer is like he gets 0 gadgets. He has to fill in expense forms for any money he uses as a bribe. And whilst he's being recalled to active duty, under duress, he starts bitching about his pay grade. And the amount he's bitching over is like 40 shillings. It's like £2.
£2. It's nothing.
The modern equivalent of, say, sort of like 20 quid a week.
20 quid a week. Yeah, exactly.
So it's
Yeah.
just like
Which
whining
is
about all
realistic.
the
That's-
shit he's got to
that's-
fill in and all the form.
Yeah.
He literally spends 5 minutes of the movie filling in expense sheets.
Expense sheets about shit
it's
that
just-
you're not
yeah,
shouldn't be right
so-
about. I'm going to mention there was a video came out going back to the Bourne Identity just quickly. There was a video done about how exposition works in films, and they use the first Bourne Identity film, which is a very good film. Go and watch it if you haven't seen it already. It's by CinemaSticks. Links in the doobly doo. But just a great little expose on exposition and how it works, and whether you can do the Bourne Identity without the exposition takes. So does the film still work? And how it would work without that exposition take. If you center it in as a character study of Bourne, what then happens in the film, and does the film still work? It's just a great little video. Yeah. But no, there you go. Right then. Cool beans. I gotta sort Windows. I didn't do my joke. I didn't do my joke about the timeline. I did my joke at the timeline. I had a funny joke because I was thinking about this the other day when I was talking to you, Zach. About, because we always record. It's Sunday morning here. It's Saturday night for everyone else. It's Saturday afternoon in the States. One of my mum's favorite books, and then subsequently one of her favorite films, is a black and white film called Saturday Night, Sunday Morning. So yeah, the joke doesn't work because I've ruined it. But yeah, there's a joke in there. If you haven't seen it, it's a bit of a kitchen drama.
Yeah, there was a lot of that in the 60s.
Saturday Night, Sunday Morning. Yeah, I just find, like, I love it because it's looking at the 1950s it's looking at the 1950s under rationing in the UK, and then the change that was going, like, in exactly the same way you see something like The Outsiders or Rumblefish happening in the States. Exactly the same things happening in Saturday Night, Sunday Morning.
Yeah,
and it's very, very intriguing. In exactly the same way you would talk about To Sir with Love, another version of the same thing. To the same way you would talk about any of the Plays for a Day would be the same thing.
Well, I mean, if you're going to talk about black and white 60s movies or black and white late 50s movies, but are really star-studded, as in, the stars of the time are kind of all in it. Georgie Girl, fantastic.
Yeah, Georgie Girl's fucking a brilliant movie. Fucking film.
It's got James Mason, Vanessa Redgrave, all sorts of brilliant actors in it, and it's all done really, really well. It's all character actors. It
is. Yeah,
and it's got an Australian band as a soundtrack, the Seekers.
Yeah, the Seekers, which is one of their standout hits for the time was, of course, Georgie Girl.
But it also features the hospital that I was born in.
God, I don't think the hospital I was born in is still there. I think they moved it.
I'm not sure that the one I was born in is still there. It's actually weird seeing the hospital I was born in before I was born in it, but it's also where my younger sister was born, and I went there. Yeah,
like you visited when she was born.
Yeah. And that's how I knew that it was Queen Charlotte's Hospital, because I clearly remember visiting it.
Yeah. No, it's a great film. It's a great bit of I would say Georgie Girl was one of those standout bits of feminist dialogue in terms of like being very much centered where it is, but being appraisable from an outside gaze. So if you pay attention when you're watching it, type thing, and you have your brain turned on as a male figure of society, then you can learn an awful lot in terms of where and when that generation was coming from and going to.
I really also
a mosquito was bit me.
The pattern of speech is preserved in that movie, of how people dicked around with language and talked to each other and had weird conversations. So and the other thing is the subject that the main character teaches, music and movement, was basically a place of horror for me when I was at school. But they actually used to teach music and movement and country dancing. But music and movement actually was, when it was invented, it was called Eurythmics.
After the band? No, other way round.
Yeah, the band is named after Eurythmics.
The band is named after the Eurythmics. Yep. It was the whole thing, wasn't it? It was all about it was that new model of education. It's one of those bits of new model of education talking about how do we how do we use the new social sciences? They're not new, but the new social sciences to improve the lives of the working classes around us, and bring them up out of poverty type thing. What a very 50s, 60s model of education that was.
It was pretty mental. I went through it.
Yeah.
I don't recommend it.
Versus what we have now, which is just a complete failure of the fucking failure of the illiberal dream of education. Type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until I get my dream
just
Star
die,
Trek school.
peasant, die.
Sorry,
Dreams. Go ahead, DW.
Oh well, nowadays the education model is basically just die, peasant, die.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like you will never own a house. You will not have enough money to breed. You will die of a preventable illness within the Western world. And you will pay for it. On the way through. And fuck you for coming out of the wrong fucking vagina.
See, I'd like to run a pacifist military academy.
You wanna start up the Earth First battalion of what's the famous one in America? The one that all the kids go to? Not Fort Wayne.
Oh,
not Fort Bragg.
You mean West Point?
West Point. Yeah, you want the Earth First version, the Earth First battalion version of West Point.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yep.
Mandatory Star Trek.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Completely.
What your lesson plan just said Star Trek here? Yep.
Yeah.
Why
That's all we
Star
need.
Trek? Because it's just optimistic about the future. This is like.
Yeah.
And what happens when they graduate? Well, we don't call it graduating. We call it unleashing. Unleash them on the human populace.
Yes. Yep. No. Alas. Well, I kind of did my joke about Georgie Girl. Has anyone else got anything further they wanna? Got another one?
I would say The Long Earth, because I don't think I've mentioned that.
I don't think you have, but I do rate The Long Earth. There's a trilogy.
I think it's 4 books, maybe 5.
Maybe it's 5. It's a quadrol. No, it's still a trilogy.
Quintilogy.
It's just like a quintilogy. I'll just put series in the show notes because I can't think. Yeah.
It's a great series of books.
Yep.
Especially if you're at all into
books.
wild camping or bushcraft. Because it's the only science fiction show that includes it.
Yeah, it deals with it very, very well. I read The Long Earth on a plane trip when it first came out. That's why I have my copy of it still. It was one of those books that was like, because who is it? Pratchett? It's Pratchett and someone.
Pratchett and Stephen Baxter.
Yeah, so Baxter and Pratchett, and then it was like, it was obviously because they had the names behind it. It came out as a trade paperback very, very quickly, and then was like put into every single bookshop, which meant that when you got through the airport and you had to go and buy a book because you had run out of book, that was one of the ones you could find. Yeah.
So I really rate it. It's literally if you take the parallel Earth theory seriously. And basically a scientist works out one day that you can just step between the Earth, the two Earths. You don't need any infrastructure at all. You just need to convince yourself that you can step that way. So he builds a really simple machine that can be made by anybody on Earth that's technically powered by a potato.
Yeah.
It's literally
and then it allows you to then step.
A resistor, a potato.
Yeah.
And that's it.
So that's it.
Anybody of any economic background can build this machine and then step. It's literally just a thing that we could always do, and some people do naturally, but some people need the psychological crutch of there being like an actual switch. And on the first day, when basically the plans come out, and then the scientist releases on the internet, today is step day, a whole bunch of people just step one way.
Yeah, they build this thing, and they build this device, and appear in a parallel universe.
Unfortunately, some people are on the second floor of some buildings or higher up, so a lot of people get broken legs or twisted ankles or shit like that. So it's basically a disaster because it doesn't actually say then switch it back and step in order to step through. The only downside is no iron can go. Nobody knows why. Nothing ferrous based can be transported. And you can only transport with you what you can carry. But there are infinite Earths. They don't run out of Earths. They get up into the giga Earths and the mega Earths and stuff like that. They go hundreds of thousands of planet Earths in one direction and then in the other, and they don't run out of them. And it's a really interesting ecosystem of sentient species that can step.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant. And there's 5 books in the series. Go read them. They're really good. Oh,
they're really, really good.
Yeah, I don't want to ruin them for you, but they're really good. And it would be the cheapest fucking sci-fi series to do.
Yes. Yeah.
Because
once you get away from Prime, it's just countryside, isn't it? Type
yeah.
thing.
There's
nothing
no
there.
humans. There's no infrastructure.
It's just trees.
People build it up a few Earths in each direction.
Yeah. But that's not hard to document, considering it's like a bunch of fucking, at best you're talking about a western town, like footing. Like you could go to you could go to the soundstage which they used for Gunmen of the Apocalypse from Red Dwarf in the UK. You could film it there. Like that would be like as far technology wise as you would need to go in terms of like building subsequent set stages to go and then record something out of it, type thing.
Yeah, I mean, and interestingly, some humans abandon technology altogether.
Yeah,
they literally have the skills to just build what they want when they turn up, to make what they want from on certain Earths, and then certain Earths are just weird. You don't stay there because there's no resources.
Yeah. Yep.
So
I completely for the both of you. Yeah, can I ruin that idea completely for the both of you?
Yeah.
Go on, man.
Yeah, the moment you start going back and forth, that's an extinction level event.
How come?
Because you're gonna walk through an entirely new ecosystem. You're gonna pick up some bugs and some germs and some bacteria.
Yeah, and then bring them back.
You're gonna come back.
Yeah.
And what's the common cold or flu for us that might as well be Ebola. And you're gonna take it from one to the other and back, and it's like both worlds are pretty much gonna out in a year.
Yeah.
Realistically speaking.
Yeah, but fourth wall.
Oh yeah, there's obviously a lot of conceit.
Yeah, but
yeah.
Oh yeah.
The fact that potatoes don't send me to another planet is, the first one.
I mean, also like that's how my mind works. It's I automatically snap like.
Oh yeah,
okay,
I mean
that's cool.
Also taking the chance that the atmosphere will be the same, that the insects wouldn't be deadly to you. They do explore it a little bit in that certain wildlife is super dangerous. And
or you show up in the middle of the ocean.
There's all and sort of all that sort of stuff happens without ruining it. All that sort of stuff happens throughout the course of the book, throughout the course of the 5 books. But it's it's just they're just well written. Baxter and Pratchett do an awfully good job of sort of explaining away the reality of what the fuck would happen and make it believable. And it's much more centered around the what happens to the world, to what happens under capitalism, and then how that fundamentally shifts and changes because capitalism requires there to be non-abundance, where if you have endless planets, there is abundance, type thing. Yeah, but no.
Yeah, I mean,
it's an interesting. Anyway, interesting.
It was basically what would happen to the economy of Earth Prime if everybody could just fuck off and live off the land. If you could, and I think it started with what if we have to go back to being hunter-gatherers? And obviously, the first response in that conversation is there's not enough space for everybody to be a hunter-gatherer.
What happens if there is enough space?
Happens if there suddenly is? And there's some really interesting political machinations go on. Like people start trying to stop people from stepping away. Some people try and make money off people that think that they need to get a job when they go to the next Earth. They don't realize that they could just keep going and build their own settlement as far out as you wanted to. What happens to humanity when you don't really have to have a job? If you don't have to have a job and you can just go, right, okay, I'll just keep a notebook.
I have a whole
I'm just going to write down
myself.
Where there's good resources. So it was kind of like that, and an exploration of the American hobo myth. and stuff like that. It was, you know, I don't think it was ever meant to be taken seriously. It was just like a fun what if.
No, go and read that, and then go and listen to Suzanne talking about anarcho-primitivism for 10 minutes, and you can see the correlation between Suzanne's philosophy on primitivism and when where Pratchett and Baxter got the idea from, type thing. Yeah, it's fascinating. I'm gonna bring in something off my list then, off of my thingo. So in 2005, The Colony in the US was made, and it's shit. At the same time, The Colony in the US was made, it's not shit, but it's not good. It's reality TV, not good. In the same year that was made, in Australia, there was an Australian production of The Colony.
No way.
There was.
Yeah.
But instead of being shit, The Colony in Australia was talking about like what happened during the 1790s and then 1800 to 1810 convict era settlement of Australia, right? It's full of nonsense and drama and like all reality TV is, right? But the discussion around it was the discussion around the US production that made me go back and look up, because I'm sure there's I was like, there's a Colony, and I'm like, hang on, there was an Australian thing called The Colony. This was like a month ago we were doing this. We were talking about the Colony, and I went back and I found it. I'll put a link in it, type thing. It's interesting because it deals with that notion of you have iron level, you can make iron level tools. You can have a blacksmith somewhere that can make tools, but then what can you make with those things, or how do you then go out and do the whole first level step out of hunter gatherer into thingo. And the weird thing is because The Colony set in Australia, you quite obviously have a group of Aboriginal Australians playing the part of Aboriginal Australians in Australia around the settlements. So they're going around doing like fucking bush tucker trials, right? All around this group type thing, and then trading with the white fellas who've all turned up with their with their pillows and bits and pieces, and making absolutely fucking stealing off them type thing, giving them a fish that's come out of the river. Well, anyone can go catch a fish in the river. You just have to go and know where the fish is, and then pay attention. But it's this really interesting dynamic between what goes on. Anyway, yeah. But it's all about them starting up. It's 3 families and then 4 families, including the Aboriginal community. So 4 families, and then the 3 white families, start up farms and do bits and pieces. And yeah, as I say, it's all that reality TV bullshit inside of it type thing. But yeah, very, very interesting bit of telly. Yeah, 2005.
That does sound interesting. Do they try and role play what it would have been like if they hadn't been total shitty to the Aboriginals?
No, they don't, which is a great shame.
Because one family breaks away, hangs out with the First Nations Australians, and it's awesome.
Well, because weirdly, that's what because that's the way we appraise things now, right? Or I think it was film 2005, so 20 years ago now type thing. They actively, the production team had to actively work towards saying the Aboriginal people aren't allowed to come into. They're only allowed to come occasionally, because the blackfellas in Australia just turn up and problem solved all these you've got a family from Scunthorpe in the UK who've come over, and then you've got a family from somewhere in Ireland who come over type thing as the convict families type thing, as the immigrant family type thing. And the weird thing is because they have no idea what the fuck Australia's like type thing. There is a family from Tasmania, a farming family from Tasmania. They do come up from Tasmania and go and film. And it was filmed up in the Hawkesbury. It's a really pretty part of Australia, just north of Sydney, just inside the basin of Sydney type thing. So it's one of the really, really nice bits of Australia. But they have to the production team have to actively stop. They have to actually actively ban the Aboriginal family from just problem solving everyone's problem for them type thing, because they have to make it reality TV, and then they have to make everyone live through hardship and suffering type thing, rather than having them all just get on. And it's a bit it's always that argument we have of put all us on a fucking reality TV show, send us off to fucking Tarrant, say whatever type thing, and all of a sudden it is a utopia. It's not without its problems, right? But it's still we just get the fuck on and do it type thing, because it's the toilets have to be cleaned, it's such and such a job this week type thing. But everyone's made sure that when they've finished in the toilet this week, that the toilet's actually fucking clean enough that it's not fucking filthy. And then correspondingly taking out sorting out the fucking compost from underneath the toilet. It's not the end of the fucking world, is it type thing? Because you're not dealing with a fucking student house of disgusting mess.
Well, they're never, those programs when they finish dealing with it and getting along.
Yeah, exactly. That's not reality TV. You can't have that as reality TV. But you know, what do we do when we socially adapt reality TV to being reflective of how do we do the best thing rather than the worst thing?
Hmm.
You know, yeah.
It's not good
Hi, Kat,
television.
you're back again. It's not good. No, it is good television. It's just not television with what we expect to be the outcome of an A B slot television show under capitalism, right? Yeah, it is good television. It can be good. It can be interesting storytelling, but we have to fundamentally change the dynamic of the people on the TV show, but also the people in the audience. What do we expect of the people of the audience? Do we expect them to think and talk and write and take part and then develop their ideas and consciousness from this thing? Is it here to inform, educate, and entertain, or is it here just to cause entertainment to be a thing and there to be no other discussion type thing otherwise? You know, is it you know, is it Big Brother or is it something well beyond capitalism type thing? It's an argument, you know, there is something there. But yeah. Yeah, interesting. Anyway, The Colony 2005. It's on YouTube. I'll put a link to in the doobly doo. Yeah, but if you just search for Colony AB like Australian production, it'll come up. It's on YouTube. It's well worth a watch. You know, it's trying at times. You know, but yeah, yeah, a good bit of Australian history of TV and reality TV stakes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Next.
I got a fun idea.
Go on
Going
then.
back like a couple conversations. Well, kind of the James Bond movie that I kind of want to see is where that like the Bond movie starts and it does its normal thing, and then you go to Q and Q gives Bond all the fun toys, and then Bond goes off screen, and the camera switches to the intern, and Q takes the intern to Q's shop, and then to like some other guy's shop, and then to go some other guy's shop, and then to this department, and blah blah. And basically, you're just using that as an excuse to go like to all the cool YouTubers that make cool shit.
Yep.
Like, and now we go to our whatever, and we walk into ClickSpring's office or where the shop where he does his stuff.
Yep.
And you walk into a ClickSpring video, and then you walk into a This Old Tony video, and then you walk into Adam Savage's one of his builds.
Yeah.
And basically just you go from one to the next to the other. And in between to like make it convincible, you get like stock footage of like we're walking down a hallway and like in the background there's like this massive industrial facility where by the way we also have
the men in black hallway
pistons that are like 3 meters in diameter. It's like, and on your left see an ICBM facility. It's like you know, and like also completely ignore that because like that's just Dave working on his thing.
On his toy.
We'll get to him later, sort of thing. Yeah.
No. Yeah, it's funny. Like we're not. It's the proposition's there because we have all of this stuff that is, you know, there is that unreality. You know, how does Old Tony make a casting and then cast a motor and then do all of the machining on the casting to make the fucking motor work type thing, and then it's not quite at the level where you can take that and then make your own motor from it, but we're almost there. You know, we just have to like, you know. We have to rejigger society enough that you know that Old Tony can release all of his files and then do some fucking teaching around, you know, the last 10% is almost there type thing. It's exactly the same with blacksmith videos. You know, like I was watching a blacksmith making chains, and I myself as a blacksmith have made chains, but there's a difference between me as a blacksmith going to trade training school and then being taught how to make chains and how to make lifting devices, linkages, and all the rest of it type thing. And then me as an engineer having the training to be able to measure, right, this is the way that we make this thing and this is how we do it and this is why it's safe type thing, versus the can I fire weld a 12mm bit of bar with scarfing on the end of it into making a link. And then where do I put the link end? And why do I put the link end where it is rather than where it shouldn't be so that I know where the failure point is on the link? Yeah, because it's like when you make a chain link, when you fucking join them, you're supposed to put it in a certain position so that when they link, they don't fucking free fall and you don't drop whatever you're fucking lifting. But no one fucking explains that to you unless they have, you know, quite a few years of experience doing this thing, or they've had someone to teach them that there's quite a lot of and make it make sense and then stick. You know, in exactly the same way that like, you know, we know the strength calculations for doing lifting gear. So if you're going to make a lifting hook, this is how big you make a lifting hook to make the fucking thing work. But most people aren't gonna. The majority of viewership at the moment isn't about documenting the anthropological studies of how and why machinery is made the way machinery is made, or how to engineer out a solution to this problem that we have that we've all seen before, or how can we adapt that into a new problem. It's instead about making viewership and making clicks happen on YouTube.
Yeah.
And those two things are a fundamental dichotomy from one another. Because I can do the science explanation of like how you work out the braking strain of a piece of fucking lifting gear. It's quite interesting, but it's probably only interesting if you're actually interested in designing and building your own lifting gear. If you want to watch an interesting video about how you make chain linkages work together, then the video that someone else made is probably worth watching more so. Just depends on what you're up to. But no, I like the idea of the endless hallway of like mad tinkerers tinkering. What a lovely idea. Yeah.
Bear with me just a moment.
Oh no, it's the shopping. We're waiting for Zach Shopping to turn up.
I am, yeah.
We've done this before. We've done this before where we've done recording and then your shopping turns up. Yep. What have I got on my list? Oh, go on then. In interesting things you can find for free. On my list of interesting books you can find for free. The Commandant's USMC's Commandant's reading list has been updated this year. Also, there's a book called Basic Combat Engineering, which was put out by the UK Department of Defence, and then US Defence Manuals. There are so many absolute fucking gems if you're willing to scour through them, in terms of like they take you from like absolutely no knowledge of a subject all the way through to being able to be like halfway competently operate a fucking device in terms of defense manuals across the board. And there's some weird wacky stuff. I'm thinking all the radio ones are quite interesting. You probably want an ARRL handbook as well about antennas, and maybe a bit of perfunctory information stuff right at the start of the beginning of learning. But once you get past that, there's just so much so much interesting stuff in terms of what the fuck is contained within all of the combat manuals, all of the defense manuals around the world. There's something very, very interesting in those things. Yeah. The other thing I think they should do with the USMC's commandants, because there's been book bannings across America, I personally believe that the commandant of the USMC should add every single banned book into the commandant reading list, because then they could not complain if you were reading them at school in the US. That was, I thought, a good response to Trump being Trump. Yeah. Was just to add all of the banned books to the reading list for this year. Yep.
Yeah, but some books are banned because they're really fucking boring, or 50 shades or just 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah. Yep.
Normally, book burnings are bad, but I'll make an exception for that one.
For that one, yeah. Yep. No, but there's always that book that individually we might well say, if I was going to burn a book, it would be this one. But conversely, we don't do that because it's even though it's a pile of shit, you just don't burn books.
Yeah.
Like I don't need Mein Kampf in my life. I've read it once. I've read it more than once. I've read it a couple of times, but I don't need to read it again. It is not worth reading. I don't think anyone needs to read Mein Kampf.
I don't know.
But in terms of
accepting of what's going on in America right now.
Yeah, but that's why it becomes important.
Yeah,
you should read it because you should read Mein Kampf because it directly reading the playbook of what these fucking idiots are doing. Yeah, Zach's going to do something important. But there's always a book that can go on the burn list. But then it's there's always a should you have read Fahrenheit 451 before you started and understood what the fuck was going on, and that this was a dystopian novel. Yeah. We should not treat Fahrenheit 451 as a manual for right now, in exactly the same way we shouldn't treat The Handmaid's Tale as a fucking as a thing. Hi, Cat. You're on the internet. You're famous. This is Cucumber.
That is what the internet is for.
Cucumber is a runt. And she's tiny, even though she doesn't look that tiny on the screen. And she's a stray cat. And she loves us because she thinks that milk comes out of our underarms because she was a runt when she was little, so I fed her. So she will appear sometimes and have a cuddle, and then she'll get the shits and she'll tell me that she hates me and then she'll fuck off. But she's a good little kitten. She's a good kitten. We used to have a mum and a dad, but they've both gone on to the wandering place of other cat gods, haven't they, mate? Cucumber, also being the smallest cat in the world, will also beat up dogs like no one's business. If she sees a dog, she spent the last. I've got new neighbours, and my new neighbours have got an ancient. I think my neighbour said he was 14 years old. He's a little toy dog who's 14 years old, and someone has been sitting in the corner of the room staring out of the doorway because she can hear the 14-year-old dog next door. And she's like, this dog is like, blind, has no teeth left, etc., 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 like his ancient type thing, as 14-year-old dogs are. And Cucumber's like, let me at that prick, I'm going to beat the fuck out of it. Because, as soon as there's a dog, it's like, I must dominate the dog. I must prove that I am the one true god of the house. Yeah.
Yes, that is absolutely correct.
Yeah. And any well-trained dog will basically ignore a cat and get the fuck out of the way of a cat. That's how you train a dog. Is you train the dog that will not react to anything a cat ever does, ever. And the response will be, the cat will beat the fuck out of me if I go near it, type thing. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
And it's funny because in the background, my niece is she's not actually my niece, but one of my nieces who's brother to another mother. One of my nieces, they're moving into a new house, so they can't keep their dog. So I'm getting a dog on long-term loan, which is fine with me because I'm like, oh yeah, dog needs rehoming. I'll look after it for a bit until you can find a new house that you can have the dog at, type thing. And but the weird thing is I was like the person who's my niece who's giving me the dog. I'm like, I know you've got cats. The dog must be trained on cats. And she's like, oh yeah, Molly the dog is like completely trained with cats. She completely ignores the fuck out of the cat because she knows if she goes near the cat will beat the fuck out of her. And I'm like, oh, good, you followed the rules about about dog trainership in the world. It's like, no, if you go near the fucking cat, and it's dead easy. Like, it's dead easy to do. When they're tiny puppies, as soon as they look at the fucking dog, you just go, that's not yours. You don't touch it. You don't go near it. You don't follow it. You don't look at it. And then the response will be the cat will just fucking end you. And dogs are so much better off when you do this.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, no. My niece is trained the dog to do. Yeah, it's one of those things of like, there's only two border collies in the world. Like there's the ones who like, there's ones that like you see them on videos and they're like, this is a sheepdog that like goes and does sheep trials and like looks after sheep, right? And they're wonderful dogs, don't get me wrong. And then the other border collie in the world is the ones that, and it's about 25 to 75%. So 25% of them are like really, really good sheepdogs, and 75% of them are lazy fucks whose sole job is to look after humans. Like, that's actually their fucking job. Is like, they might have another, like they might go for a run with you, or they might do whatever, but they're basically like welfare dogs for like human beings. And Molly is a welfare dog for human beings because she's been like trained on like, look after small people and then like be my friend. And that's what 75% of border collies are like, type thing. Yeah, and you can never tell when you look at a bunch of pups. You can never tell which one of them is going to be a sheepdog and which one of them is going to be a fucking house dog type thing. You just can't tell. Like, you have to basically take them to about 6 months when you can start them working, and then you might have some clue. And even then, they might well fall foul of actually being sheepdogs, and you might end up just having this like mad dog who wants to go and do like, agility coursework type thing. Yeah, I could talk about dogs endlessly. I've forgotten what the name of the person is, but yeah, the videos about dogs that dude did that we talked about like 3 weeks ago. Yeah, well worth listening to. I'll try and remember who that is. Dick. It's not Dick Petonic, is it? That's the guy who did the Alaska thing. Richard Hargreaves. I want to say it's Richard Hargreaves. Go back 3 streams. Yeah. He had some fascinating videos about dogs, and it's a bit like, no, listen to this dude. Yep, this dude talking about fucking dogs. Iron Angel's here. Hi, Iron Angel. How are you this week? Is Iron Angel's radio working? No. We don't have a microphone yet.
I kind of believe
I forgot to put the button, but yeah.
It was a pebcac.
Yeah, I am quite shit this week. So
you sure quite? Oh, that's not good. That's a no good. You're having a hard time externally, or you're having a hard time internally?
Oh, it's entirely internal.
Oh, well,
Just dealing with getting lists for the shop and
yep.
all that
Your
shenanigans.
your endless shenanigans of dealing with the shit. Yep.
Quite.
Yep.
And lost a tooth this week, so I'm relearning
Oh.
to speak, and that's not going
Yep.
well.
Yep.
So
And of course, we
very
live in the Western.
sibilant.
Yeah, we live in the Western world where, of course, access to a dentist is predicated on the fact that you're a billionaire or not a billionaire, rather than on the access of, hang on a second, this is a healthcare option that we should have under nationalized healthcare, isn't it? Type thing. I live in a country where
Precisely.
there's no dental service, so yeah. Eventually, I will get back to a country that treats its human beings like human beings, and then I will go to the dentist, and then it will not charge me to go to the dentist.
Well, you're
Yep.
not talking about the UK, are you?
No, because that country has gone fucked as well.
Mm.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, no dental care here either, really, to speak of.
No, it's fucking appalling. It's an appalling state of affairs when the art of dentistry is not deemed to be a part of a nationalized health service and then given to everyone across the board.
Mm.
And we'll see it, because we'll see life expectancy go down, like catastrophically go down, because people aren't accessing fucking dental healthcare, dentists across the board. You know, it's fucked. You know, but it's exactly the same way as we look at America and go like how the fuck do you have a functioning government? Because why is everyone not dead at age 60 from, diabetes and preventable fucking illness?
A lot of them
But
are.
then an awful large percentage of them are. So I suppose, like, you want to, fuck around and find out. Fuck around and find out. Yep.
So, more importantly, how did you lose the teeth? I mean, assuming you can talk about that.
It's actually a cavalcade of errors over the years. I've been hit in the face very frequently, bar fights and work and so on and so forth. And just, the stress and stuff with dealing with all this shit the last 8 months, 6 months, whatever it is, has just led to, the whole body. Let's lose hair, let's lose teeth, all that kind of shit.
Yeah. Or just the stress of going through a major life-changing thingo, has caused it to happen. Well,
Well, having my jaw separated when I was 20 doesn't help.
No.
Having been hit in the face with a rifle butt when I was 25 doesn't help. Having been,
No.
Hit in the face repeatedly with pull cues and locks on the end of chain and so on and so
Yeah.
forth doesn't help. So,
Yep.
I've had some very creative time in the past.
Creative in quotation marks. Yes. Yep. No. Oh well, fingers crossed for next week. Hopefully everything, hopefully your Sunday's the first day of the week, evolves into being a good day rather than being hopefully becomes a positive rather than a negative next week for you. But yeah.
Let's look at the calendar real quick.
Yeah. No.
Not
Let's
a
not
goddamn
look at the news
chance.
this week. Yeah, let's not read the news this week. That's a good start to the fucking making the world feel a better place. Problem is you can ignore it.
This is a typically dark time for me anyway. So I don't deal well with the next 2 weeks.
Yep. Just the onslaught of human trauma. Yep. We all have those ones. I like to bunch one up around Christmas. It's always fun. That's my favorite one to do. Yep.
Mine is I will be 58 in about 2 weeks. I got to look what day.
Nothing like a birthday to remind you of how shitty the world is that you keep getting older.
Yeah, this coming Friday we lost my grandmother years ago, and then the following Friday is my birthday, and then 3 days after that was her birthday. So,
All right.
festive time of year for me. Very festive.
Yeah. Yep. No, we had the same thing with my grandfather. Yep, 2 days born, 2 days. Well, he was born. I was born 2 days before him. But it was this weird thing of this cross celebration. Yep. It's always fucking hard. No, mate. As tokenistic as it is, thoughts and prayers, as always. Yep. Yep. Yeah. How did you go with your shopping, Zach? Did you get it in? Did you get all the frozen things put away?
I haven't put everything away. I just fridged all the fridgeable stuff.
No, it's certainly the fridgeable stuff that has to go away. Everything else can sit on the floor for a bit longer.
It can do, yeah. So, yeah, sorry about that. Yeah,
That's all right.
I wasn't thinking when I booked the delivery slot.
No, that's fine.
But
no.
Yeah.
I was running around like a headless chicken organising my shopping delivery for Tuesday next week. Yesterday.
I blame my friend Dean.
At the same time as trying to cook dinner. It was a fucking goer last night, trust me. Trying to put dinner on the table for a small person at the same time as trying to check out the fucking shopping delivery. And I was sat there going, why don't I do this to myself?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, but yeah, somebody was talking about baked potatoes, and I thought that sounds great. And I went to the fridge, and there were no potatoes.
You keep your potatoes in the fridge?
Yeah, they keep forever in the fridge.
That's funny because if I put potatoes in my fridge, they die. I think my fridge is probably get too cold though.
Yeah,
with a reason
I mean,
why.
you can't have it on freezing, but yeah, potatoes and onions keep forever in the fridge.
Yeah. Yep.
It's because I don't have very much in the way of salad. Like I've got fresh tomatoes, but that's the only salad vegetable I've really got at any time.
Yep.
So I've got the big crisper drawer, so I keep the potatoes in there.
No, I must admit, I only get fresh salad when the small person's here. Otherwise, I make do with roadside weeds and random shit out of the freezer. I'd rather eat spinach out of the freezer for a month than have a fresh salad. Yep.
Yeah, I had a hankering for baked potatoes with chili and cheese.
Nice.
And the cat supplies were
Did
getting
anyone-
low.
I had to order cat supply. Cat food was on special this week, so I bought cat food this week too. Cat will be happy. I was happy because the cat food was on half price. Yep.
I'm sure
Did
the
anyone-
cat won't
Go.
mind if you leave some sausages out.
No, but yeah, I don't have any. I don't have any.
Considerably more expensive than
Cat food. Yep.
I mean,
No.
I've got tuna as emergency cat food, but I don't like getting down to her
Yep.
emergency cat food.
Yep. No, I have the same thing. I have some like some shitty wet cat food that I was given. That's her emergency one. But you know when you open a packet of it, it's like, yeah, I've really got to go to the shops and buy some cat food. But yeah. But as I'm currently living with a car that needs going for a service, I'm not driving in my car. Oh, what fun. Oh. Yep. And then my mechanic that I used for the last couple of years since I moved has shut down, so I had to go to the new mechanic and book in. What fun. Yep.
Have they let you know how much it's going to be yet?
Oh, yeah, it'd be $1.50 without even sneezing.
Yeah.
Yep. Got to pull apart the front hubs and redo the seals on the main front hubs on a four-wheel drive. They book it as being an 8-hour job. It's not really. If you know how to do it, it's 5 hours. But they still charge it as a full day in the workshop. So I won't have to pay for my servicing charge at the same time, and I'll get the brakes and everything else made sure that they're like up to spec again, because it hasn't had. Fuck, I did the brake. I haven't done the brake rotors and pads for 10 years. Coming up towards 10 years. So it might be new pair of pads as well by now. But it hasn't started squeaking, so it can't be that fucking close. But yeah. So, but the good thing is if it goes in the mechanic, then the mechanic does, like, you know, they've got all the shit, and then if the brakes need doing, the brakes get done, and I haven't got to fuck around doing them type thing, because they're a pain. Like, you can do them, but it's like a pain in the ass. But I'm not doing the fucking main hub seals on the back of the thingo, because it's like, no, this is not something I can do easily in any space, you know, usefully type thing.
At least you
So
don't
fuck
own
it,
the
it can go in there. Oh yeah, fuck it. No. Well, it's weird because like if my next car will be electric. I'm not buying another fucking car until I can afford to buy an electric car, type thing. I'm not having another car until I can get an electric one. And then, like, you know, as soon as Toyota start making an electric Yaris, I'll be happy. Or, like, you know, fucking find a Nissan Leaf or something or other. But yeah, I'm not. Yeah, it's not happening type thing. But then I don't drive anywhere because, like, I know that every time I hop in the car and drive, I'm fucking destroying the planet. So, like, I don't do it unless I absolutely have to. But yeah, so it just annoys me that there's no fucking trams and no fucking trains in my country. And the stupid thing is there's a fucking train station in my fucking town, in my small town, in the middle of fucking buttfuck nowhere, right? There was a fucking train station. There was a train line that ran down the fucking, like, it ran down to where I am, all the way into the major town where I would want to go on the train if I was going to go somewhere on the train. I could get there. I used to be able to get the top thing on a train, and in exactly the same way that they did in Europe, the same way they did in the UK, the same way they did in fucking America. They just dug up the fucking train lines. And it's a bit like, no, I'm sorry, but the person who did this needs to get dug back up again and, like, burnt at a fucking stake because you're a fucking idiot. You know?
Well.
No, there's no excuse. Like, we knew in the 1970s that peak oil was occurring, right? And, like, you're talking about the 1960s when it happened in the UK. That was when Dr. What's his name? Dr.
Beeching.
Dr. Beeching went around and did, like, that started in what, 61?
To be fair,
they went around and, like, they were
in the UK,
they were pulling out nationalised railway.
They put in train stops literally all over the place.
Yeah.
And in a way, that wasn't very efficient. And you've got to consider the state of the economy in the UK in the 1960s. Now, they could have mothballed them until the economy recovered.
Exactly. Or they could have adapted the train lines and put in and left the train lines where they were, but then reworked them so that they worked properly. So that, like, you know, I'm thinking about that. There used to be a train line, like where I used to live in the UK, right? I lived at the end of the train line, and where you live is on the other side of where that train line went, right? Transpennine Express went across that type thing. And the weird thing is they stopped the train line from going across because somehow it wasn't efficient, but yet I lived, like, where it used to take me an hour and a half to get to Nottingham, I could have got to Manchester in an hour and a half had that train line been there. You're telling me that it wouldn't be of a benefit from that point onwards that train line was left where the fuck it was and it still ran to this day.
Yeah.
Like fuck it was. Someone made a fucking stupid decision because Mr. Beeching was a fucking moron. Right? It's like, no. The answer is never to destroy fucking to destroy the economic base of a fucking country. If you've nationalized that point and you've industrialized that point, you don't fucking roll it back, right? Because you're guaranteed that within 100 years you're going to want to go back to that fucking system type thing. You know, we're never going to get a more efficient way of moving people around the country ever than fucking trains. That's not good.
Or light railway.
It's never going to happen.
That's
like light railway trams, right? We're never going to get past that in terms of a species level event. It's always going to be more efficient for that thing to exist rather than having fucking roadworks going everywhere type thing, right? And within my lifetime, we've destroyed Australia's economy, railway economy, and now we're at a point, 45 years later, I'm 45 this year, from this point onwards, something like where we're at the point where we cannot repair the roadways in this country because we can't even get fucking bitumen in. So therefore, all the roadways are just destroyed. You know. Like, it doesn't fucking work, you know, and we won't employ people to go and build fucking Roman roads. Like, where we need a fucking road, build a fucking road, you know, and then let horses walk up and down it, and let ambulances go up and down it, fine, but that's it. Let bicycles go up and down it, great, you know, but otherwise, fuck off, you know. In exactly the same way, you wouldn't, like, in exactly the same way, as bad as planes are, right? You would mothball 90% of flights, right, around the world. I'm not suggesting that we shut down a single airport around the world. Not a single airport should be shut down. In fact, many more airports should be opened up, and then we should work on making air flight so that it is actually sustainable, so that when we actually have to fly somewhere, somewhere, and that thing is, like, time dependent. I'm thinking, for example, of fucking medicines, for an example, that things that have to be moved on a fucking plane in a fucking time within a set time in a certain way, those things are important, right? Yeah. So I'm not saying shut down fucking all airports and make all fucking planes go away. I'm saying 90% of plane fights don't need to fucking happen because everyone needs to be fucking ecologically and sociologically responsible, right? Yeah, and you may well have a lotto so that, like, you're a sustainable airline, that you can enter the lotto if you want to go on a fucking, or you go on a fucking on a ship somewhere around the fucking world. That's fine, right? Yeah, but the solution is not to go backwards. The solution is always to go forwards, and this is what we have. We've lived through. How the fuck someone in the 60s decided that England or the UK coming out of fucking out of post World War II reconstructionism was to destroy the fucking training systems? It's like, no, you dumb as fuck. It doesn't take 10 seconds. 10 seconds of realistic thinking. It's like, no, if you have to mothball a railway station or put it to tram usage, do it.
Well, this is what happens when you make important societal decisions based on politics.
Yeah, based on capitalism as a dichotomy of that politics.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to mention. It's going to be a really random mention then, as a piece of media. Then, everyone should go and find and read from start to finish. Thomas the Tank Engine. Thomas the Tank Engine is one of the greatest pieces of socialist literature. This is the reason why I know so much about the fucking tram system and how trains and trams adapted was because of Reverend Audrey's write-up of what the fuck happened. I'm not joking. It's absolutely fucking brilliant. Go and fucking read it.
There's actually a British sitcom based on the Beeching coal.
Yeah, I've seen part of it, but I haven't seen the whole thing. I don't know what is it. Is it called? Thank you, Mr. Beeching.
It's Dr. Beeching.
Dr. Beeching. Yeah,
it was.
I've seen an episode of it, but I haven't.
From was it called Heidi High?
Yeah, sounds right. It's one of those things.
It's basically all the same actors from Heidi High, which is also a historical document in its own way.
Yeah,
about
talking about the leisure camps, wasn't it? Type thing.
Holiday camps.
Holiday camps. Post-war fucking. What were barracks?
No. They were barracks and prisoner of war camps.
Yeah, but what a great use, right? Okay, so you get to the end of conflict, you demob half the fucking military because you don't need the military type thing. And what do you do with all the fucking army camps? You turn them all into holiday resorts.
I went to one in the 70s.
Exactly the same logic.
It wasn't that long after.
You don't demob a fucking railway. You don't demob a fucking railway station, which is going to take you to an army base, do you? Type thing. No, you leave it there, right? You leave the fucking railway station there, so everyone can get to it without even trying. Everyone can get to a railway station, type thing, and then you're within like within a kilometer's walk to the local fucking what eventually becomes a scout camp, type thing. Now we've talked at length about the importance that is the modern scouting movement as a thing that should be revitalized and rebuilt type thing, so that everyone has access to these resources, this learning infrastructure, what the fuck is going on type thing, right? But there's a perfect example, right? If you want a connected railway system, right, that connects up everyone to everyone type thing, and then you want a place where you can go where, should the need arise, if a conflict starts up, perhaps in the middle of the eastern side of Europe, perhaps, in the last 5 years, you might want to remob a whole bunch of fucking soldiers to go and do whatever the fuck it is you need to go and do in a conflict zone. So what do you do with them when they're not that? You make them all fucking holiday camps so the kids can go away on holidays and have fucking getaways, so they can all go and learn scouting techniques.
Oh, hold on.
What about I not do the cat?
I know you're acting.
The big holiday where everyone.
I never act. I don't have acting. I'm autistic.
The holiday camps were a good idea.
They weren't as holiday camps. Excuse me. They weren't as holiday camps. Don't get me wrong, right? Like, no one ever needed to go to a holiday camp in their life. What I'm suggesting is that the usage of those structures should be maintained by the Army Corps of Engineers, and they would be useful for multiple things. For example, scout camps. For example, asylum seekers. For example, disaster situations. If someone has to, if disaster happens in like in Lincolnshire type thing because it floods, and we have to move the whole population of Lincolnshire out of Lincolnshire, perhaps we should have somewhere to put those people where we can just put them and they have a fucking house, that is well maintained, that it has fucking, has a nice vibe, that can quite easily adapt to being like, there's everyone has got a primary age kid can go there, know their kids are safe and da da da. Activity. Using the technology
What was
for
that noise?
that's the come and watch the video with us on the YouTubes. It's the bibbly bobbly is you have to join Thingo. Why am I hosting?
Oh, for fuck's sake!
Make Zach host, then Zach can run it. Zach, run the thing. While Zach gets set up, I'm going to refill my teacup. I'm still going to talk to you, Zolo, from the kitchen.
It's asking me to log in and do stuff too. No, I'm not. No,
You shouldn't have to log in.
My YouTube to my Discord.
To
Oh, we got ads.
broadband is
I
as
do
easy
apologise.
as
And,
that with one touch switch.
yeah, that's cool. Don't worry, but just that me being weird about
It's a big holiday for parents to
all the
with
social media
we-
platforms and all the websites don't need to
we
know
got-
who I am.
Flins.
Yeah,
Big
no
holiday
shit.
where everyone
We got
enjoys
ads.
everything
Can
at
we
no
basically
extra cost,
advise
like the
anybody who
monorail
sees an
at Butlin
ad,
Skegness.
boycott that
It's a
product?
big holiday.
How this is going to work, buddy. I will give you a dead honest review, and you don't get to say fuck all about it. If you don't like the fact that I think it's a piece of shit, too goddamn bad. You know?
Yeah, I like
And
doing
I am-
reviews of things that are actually useful that don't get advertised.
Yeah.
You know,
But I am rough on kit.
Hmm.
So, somebody wants to send me a 3D printer, we're going to use it as an anvil and see how this works.
yeah.
So,
I can see
Yeah.
that actually working.
Destruction testing.
There we go. There we go.
how long does this phone survive in the forge? Ooh, look, it's starting to swell up. Ooh, splody.
Will it blend? Yeah. Will it
blend?
blacksmith?
Yeah. Will it be crushed by the press? Yeah.
Identifying rare earth metals by the color of the flames they produce in the forge.
Yes.
Or
Exactly.
going on about rare earth metals and saying, Donald, you can't have any. Chinese won't give you them. The Ukrainians won't give you them. I've got boxes and boxes.
I am reminded of a bit in The Young Ones. Viv, if you can't control your socks, you shan't be allowed to have any.
Yeah. I think they did some weird
and the-
adverts on the young ones as well.
Yes, they did. And that is my Recomedia for the week, by the way.
Oh, there we go.
Back
Oh,
and
add it
find
to
the
the
young ones from like what, 1982? I think
Something
that
like
came out.
Yeah, about then. What I would say is also have a look at Tiswas.
I can't spell Tiswas. Try again.
Tiswas.
Is it got a space or is it Tiswas?
Yeah, there's just Tiswas. Just one word.
Okay, I thought I had an
have
apostrophe
no
in it.
idea what that is.
It was basically similarly a children program made by adults who put in a lot of in jokes, but it was absolute anarchy. It just like, if you want to see what happens if somebody just doesn't give a shit for 2 hours on television, Tiswas was what it was. So it's kind of like that anarchic thing, sort of late 70s thing, and it was just anarchy. You don't. I wouldn't say you have to watch more than like 20 minutes of it to see what the gist is, but yeah, it was kind of like that. I mean, the young ones was pretty anarchic.
Yep. I'm going to add on then the Acme School of Stuff, which was a CBC, Canadian Broadcast Corporation, made a passing. They went and like looked around factories and shit and did stuff, and then, like, you know, it was whatever. It was like the Canadian version of the Blue Peters kind of thing, but much more industrial. You know, go and explore bits and pieces, and then explaining away technology. Yeah.
And if you're gonna throw that in, then may I recommend Why Don't You?
Yeah. And the other one I was going to do,
like How It's Made. Is that similar?
Acme School of Stuff was very much like it went everywhere from like, this is like, it's not only like how's it made, but it's also like, how do you put together, like, how does this thing operate, like, not only how is it made, but also how do you make this thing? So like explaining the process of like how a crystal radio works, like in very much like, you know, not like late preschool, what you call middle school in the States type thing. So late preschool, early high school type level of understanding, but like very much like going into the factory and like, you know, this is how an LED chip is made and this is what it does. And then where do we use that? And then what is it actually doing? And then how do we blow one up type level of thing. Yeah. Very, very cool. Bit of you know, out of CBC. Yeah. My other favorite CBC production ever was the collective works of the original runs of Children of Degrassi Street, Degrassi Junior High, and Degrassi High. The modern ones are shit by comparison. Well, they're not as good, but the whole of the Degrassi series, I owe them an awful lot of my grown-upness to the Canadian mythology of how do you behave like a human being and how do we teach children to behave. Yeah.
Wasn't 21 Jump Street a spin-off from that?
No, 21 Jump Street's 21 Jump Street is a typical fucking how do we make kids not want to take drugs?
Okay,
right?
Yeah, because I'm like,
whereas Degrassi is like,
what are you on about?
Yeah, whereas Degrassi is like, if you take drugs or you've seen anyone take drugs, the outcome of that is someone you know is going to have brain damage, which if you're a child of the 80s, right? Like I know multiple people who of my childhood who fucking died taking drugs. Like to this day, like I can look at like the people in the male people, the masculine people, right? In my year at school, right? And I didn't go to a big school in terms of Australian thing, but it was a moderately large school in West Sydney, and the number of people I can count on, like I run out of fingers and toes very, very quickly out of my year group, just men who've died of drug usage. That's how fucking bad it is. And you're like, no, if you'd fucking paid attention and you'd fucking learned what the fuck was going on, like this social programming was actually fucking good to a certain level. You need to have a conversation around it, and there was a conversation around what the fuck they were talking about something, but they didn't sugarcoat it. It was never like drugs are cool, drugs are this, or drugs are bad, drugs are bad. Like it was not typical, and it wasn't like, you know, and it wasn't like a fucking like you do whatever your fucking friends tell you. It was like, no, the outcome of doing this shit is someone is going to die of AIDS because we're living through the fucking AIDS epidemic, and this is what this fucking means. And watching a character go through this social arc over the course of 2 seasons, you know, the high school bully goes through this process of having an affair over over the summer holidays type thing, coming back, realizing they've got AIDS, and then them having to fucking deal with the social ostracization, the outcome, getting sick, and eventually fucking dying of catching AIDS in the 80s. And it's like,
Interesting.
fucking good like really fucking good, like
Yeah.
TV for that, you know. And the weird thing is like Degrassi Kids starts off with like kids in primary school, and it's like them going and doing kids in primary school stuff. Junior high is obviously middle years, and them dealing with what the fuck is going on. And then high school is obviously, you know, they all get moved up to high school, and they've got to follow on because all the actors have aged out. But and in terms of like just, it's the I've got there's a chair, there's a pillow there, Poss. If you want to put a pillow to sit on the floor. My small person is awoken. Yeah, in terms of just like really, really good production value, and it was done by CBC, and it was like, you know, yeah. I'm going to bring up as a sideline. I'll try and find the video for you. Put it in the show notes for later. There's a fascinating video looking at the very first, say, decade of Sesame Street productions, and how anarchic and weird and surreal that first like 10 years of Sesame Street production was, versus where it has evolved to now, and just how fucking weird and wacky and surreal and Dadaist it is as a piece of work, and how involved the human characters were rather than the Muppet characters type thing, which is what it's now evolved into being. But yeah, I'll try and find a list. I can't. That's all I can tell you. But yeah, interesting take on what the fuck was that outcome of the top thing in terms of kids programming. But yeah, yep. Don't touch me, you're disgusting. Did you get a tea? You got a tea.
Yeah, basically, when Elmo shows up, it immediately colonizes Sesame Street, and suddenly there's no trash on the street and all that kind of stuff. And it just the amount of I've lost the word. Hello. What the hell is it when rich people move into old neighborhoods and fuck them up?
Gentrification. The gentrification of Sesame Street happened.
Thank you.
Yeah. The gentrification versus the initial production, which was like there was like it was quite uniformly split between like there was the Muppets or the character, there was the puppet characters, and they were all, every single one of them was different, versus the Mexican family versus the African American family versus the white family, who were all living in the street, and then who turned up and what they did type thing. And yeah, it's if you go and watch it, and it's bizarre to watch, because I only remember Sesame Street from being a primary school kid, like less than primary school age kid, you know, type thing, watching it. I've never seen it subsequently type thing. I've never sat down and watched it. None of my kids ever watched it subsequently type thing, particularly. But weirdly, like the reverse is true of Play School. Play School in Australia has been a staple from before I was born to still running to this day, and it is still one of the most important pieces of like thing you can sit down with your kid and they do craft and they talk and they do the inform and educate bit of TV so well on it type thing. And it's like going along to kindergarten or like going along to preschool for kids who maybe don't have access or their parents can't take them or whatever, for whatever reason. And it's giving them that insight into like, you know, what's going to happen at, you know, on the next journey, on the next development journey, and then what they can do. In exactly the same way that early Blue Peter did it really, really well. In the same way that all these other, like, you know, inform and educate TV shows did it really, really well. Play School is still doing that in Australian TV. But that's because in Australia, we have really, really strict rules about TV programming and how much TV programming like had to be manufactured in Australia and how much had to be fucking dedicated towards informing and educating. And that doesn't exist anywhere else.
No.
So,
but
TV's fucked.
That was a rule
TV's
that needs to come back.
I think
completely.
that's probably my first ADHD stroke autistic experience, is watching Sesame Street for the first time. Because my first thought when it finished was, nobody's going to believe that was just on television. They're going to tell me I'm lying because that was just so weird.
Because it's Dadaist as fucked. It's straight out of the Situationalist International Handbook for, like, you know, 1979. Like someone was reading like fucking some communist fucking propaganda, right, by some like leading Marxists of the 1970s, and then they made a fucking TV show for children about that fucking thing. But then weirdly, in that thing is like some important skills. Know your ABCs. like know all the important colours. Here's how you go and play in the playground. Here's how you do like etc. 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 Like, you know,
Didn't stop it
creating
being
things out of
really
bottle
weird and
caps.
psychedelic.
Yeah, but it doesn't
It's
stop
not
it from
the
being the
Muppets
most
so much,
amazing
but
bit
when
of Data media ever.
When they did an
Yeah.
animated cutaway, just the weird pinball machine and it going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,
Yeah.
11, 12. And I'm like, what the
Yeah.
actual fuck?
But
And I
then
remember
when you're a child,
being about 4 years old going, no one's going to believe that this was on television.
and then
Yeah.
you realise,
Yeah.
like any good storytelling, you realise the reason why you have a sing song that gets you all the way to 12, right? On the same TV show that's teaching you how to tell the fucking time is because we want everyone in the fucking world to be able to count to 12 when they're about 4 or 5 years old. And this is a really, really important skill that if we can just train you to sing the song 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, which is universally known to anyone who speaks fucking English across the fucking world who ever watched fucking Sesame Street ever, right? You might not know why you can count to 12 in that way, but all of a sudden, learning the clock face is really, really easy. Yeah? And you don't connect it because you're a fucking 4-year-old, but you do connect it when you're 25 and you start reading sociology of education textbook that explains exactly why this fucking thing happened on TV. You know, why do we do arts and crafts in the way we do arts and crafts on Blue Peter? It's not because we want to spend money doing arts and crafts on Blue Peter. It's because we want, across the board, anyone can go and rifle through the rubbish, the recycling of that week, and then, with paper mache, be able to build a diorama, which is an important skill for people of primary age school children to be able to do, so they can explore a creative side of what the fuck is going on out of leftover junk, paper, and fucking and fucking flour glue.
So on
That's
Blue
important.
Peter, there were 3 amazing makes in its whole history. The first one was they made this thing called an Advent crown that had 4 candles on it, and you'd light one a week in the run up to Christmas. And they stopped doing it after there were a shitload of house fires.
Candles are not good in house fires. Yeah.
Candles would set light fire to the tinsel, which was plastic, and because it was usually hung up quite high, lots of people at the time had polystyrene ceiling tiles. So
which would then set fire
that
to
was
the
a thing they had to
entire
take apart and tell people not to make. The second one was that they built a model of Tracy Island from Thunderbirds because it was the toy to buy that year, and literally it was actually marginally better than the toy you could buy. That was the weird thing about it. It totally worked. But the third one is the funniest. If any of you have ever heard of a TV show called Blake Seven, the prop master there had been the prop master on a couple of other TV shows, but the teleporter bracelets kept going missing. So if you watch the first couple of episodes of Blake Seven, there's a full rack of teleporter bracelets. There's like about 50 of them. And as the TV series go on, it goes down to about 3 or 4 because people would just lose the fucking things. And they were made out of Bakelite and properly put together. But Blue Peter showed you how to make a teleporter bracelet from Blake Seven out of an old sellotape reel. And it was such a good make that the prop master actually admitted later, in seasons 3 and 4 of Blake Seven, they're actually the Blue Peter ones. Yeah, they're all cellophane ones. That's why you never see them unhinge them. Like literally, the guy was at home going, "How are we going to make more of these? They were really expensive, and we're just going to lose them again. And there isn't the budget to make more." And he just happened to be watching Blue Peter with his kids, and was just like, "Oh, thank God for that! The BBC have saved me." And he just sat down, just pulling sellotape off reels to make the fake teleporter bracelets. But
So I have a story, right? My small person is going on to being a teenager this year, type thing, and the weird thing was, stop talking, I'm talking. And the weird thing is I can time exactly when my boys, who are now grown up, right, were young enough that we actually went and I sat down and was like, you guys have never seen this. You have never seen this. I guarantee you've never seen this. And I downloaded and we watched all of the episodes of Tracy Island being built on Blue Peter from 1985, say.
Yeah.
Right? Which I'd only ever seen as a grown-up because it wasn't like Blue Peter wasn't shown on Australian TV, but I know Blue Peter because I travelled to the UK. I used to watch it every afternoon because it was still on TV when I was in the UK. Right? Watch Countdown, watch Blue Peter. Interesting TV after work. And we sat down and we built a mock-up. It wasn't Tracy Island exactly. We built the mock-up of Tracy Island with them when Small Person was like just before she was born. And we built a Tracy Island so that they could have their like Lego men and like run around with their like action figures on Tracy Island and have a fucking mock-up because it's still one of the best diorama sets of like, let's go and make a fucking
They
diorama
also
set.
showed you how to build
fucking
a
brilliant.
Lego scale moon base.
Yeah.
Like a
all that sort of stuff.
good like sort of 5 or 6 years earlier.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, and it's
yeah,
just,
they did teach you to build stuff. Why Don't You was very good for that.
Yeah,
The full,
and there's,
the full title of Why Don't You is Why Don't You Go and Do Something Much More Interesting Instead of Watching TV type thing.
Yeah.
And that the person that was the director of that, Russell T Davies, went on to do Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And Queer as Folk.
Yeah. The cockies are moving over top of me. Has anyone got any to round out before we go? Go.
Well, I've pulled up Tiwas and or Tiswas, and I have to say, just watching it without listening, these people were on a lot of hallucinogenics.
Oh yeah,
it was LSD. It's LSD time.
Oh, it's absolutely mental. They just ended up putting most of the kids in a cage and throwing custard pies and water at them.
Yeah,
it's just insanity. It's just like, we've got a spare TV studio and no budget. And so they started introducing the Phantom Flan Flinger and crazy shit like that.
It reminds me a great deal of like Sid and Marty Krofft stuff. Because everything Sid and Marty Krofft did, they were high as shit and just started gluing stuff together, and you got Sigmund and the Sea Monster and H.R. Puffin stuff and all of that. But when you go back and look at it, you're like, holy God, how fucking high were you people?
Interestingly, exactly the same team, exactly the same studio, they did an adult version of Tiswas. So during the day, I can't remember what it was called. They actually did a whole thing. What's it called?
Oh, they're slowly
Over the
getting together.
Top. Yeah. OTT TV show. It was called OTT. Yeah. And it's exactly the same team in exactly the same studio, but it's more adult jokes. Because what they found with Tiswas is that adults really liked it.
Yeah.
So all the people that were like sitting there on a Saturday morning coming round from a hangover from Friday night would watch Tiswas, laugh their asses off at all the... I mean, it was one of the first UK TV shows that did a dunk tank and showered them with slime and stuff like that. They just did all sorts of terrible shit to kids. And it was just a complete hoot. And then in the evenings on a Saturday night, they did OTT, which was exactly the same presenters as we're doing Tiswas. Just going, okay, the gloves are off, we can do what we want. So look up OTT TV show. If you think Tiswas is nuts.
You've reminded me of we're going back to Canadian good Canadian television. The Canadian sketch comedy television show, it aired between 79 and 81, and it was repeated in Australia subsequently afterwards type thing. There's more episodes than that. There's 10 seasons of it. You can't do that on television, which is where you can't say that on radio was named up. That's the reason why the TV show, that's why my radio show was named that for years and years. It was named after. You can't do that on television. It's a sketch comedy show. It's absolutely fucking hilarious in terms of just psychedelic shit. Giving the drama department kids, and the AV department kids, access to a fucking studio somewhere on CBC, and then saying, now go make television that is go make a sketch comedy TV show. And it's just and I posit that we would all be better off if that was the level of television manufacturing that was happening now. Yeah? We'd be better off if there were... Channel 31 is a community television station in Sydney, right?
Yeah.
Or Melbourne. We would be better off if that was the model and funding worked that way, in terms of, if you want to make a TV show, then we're just gonna give you access to all of the shit, all the funding, and then whatever successful, whatever floats, whatever you decide not to keep making, you decide not to keep making something. Just think of the outcome that would have been that in 2025 versus Netflix as an outcome.
Yeah, I think there's a reason that those chaotic TV shows where people just did stuff and low cost television was in place is because Ofcom initially had a certain amount of educational or
you have to
locally
do
produced
your local.
television.
Yeah, you have to do your locally produced educational TV shows. Great. Set it at 99%.
Yeah.
Right.
So there were
If you want to download,
if you just one studio, we go and do things,
Yeah.
and it's produced within a couple of days and then edited and put out.
Yeah.
I mean, that did lead to some really fucked up TV shows, like Over the Top, and I'm particularly remembering things like So It Goes, like really like 1970s type stuff.
Yeah.
And,
but there's always going to be shit TV, right?
And
but
even
the difference is that
if you want some horror, the Mark Bolan TV show and the Bay City Rollers TV show.
Oh God.
Yeah.
That was terrible.
Which one?
So the Bay City Rollers are from Bay City Rollers. They're from here. They're from across state.
No, they're not.
We've met.
No, you can't.
Are you
have
sure?
done. They're Scottish.
Are you
they're
sure?
Scottish by birth.
We have at least one Bay City Roller living in Bay City,
Oh, no.
Michigan.
No, they live there now, but they're from Scotland.
Do they?
They were born in Scotland, weren't they?
Yeah, they've got the accent and everything, but I mean they're here now.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Well,
they're
they
all
might
there
be.
now.
I don't think it's
It's
necessarily.
bizarre because
Yeah.
he actually lives like 8 or 9 doors down from Question Mark. From Question Mark and the Mysterians, 99 Tears and all that.
Yep.
They're literally like neighbors. And I'm like, what's the fucking town picnic like in this town? You know? So yeah, apparently
It's an LSD trip on plus.
if it isn't actually one of the real Bay City Rollers, we have an absolutely fantastic imposter that lives over here now.
No, I
It's the
think a
weirdest
couple of
fucking
them.
thing.
Yeah, there was a big scandal with the money that they supposedly made, and they did very well in America. It was like one of the.
Well, they
There's a cluster of weird bands from that area. It's Mitch Ryder.
Well, the weather's nice where you are. That's the thing. Like
Alice
comparatively
Cooper
nice.
was down the road there. A buddy of mine used to actually work at a service station and put gas in Alice Cooper's mom's car,
That's cool.
and she would have him put in $1 at a time, pay him the $1, and then reset the pump because she thought the pump was basically cheating her if it went over $1. This is when gas is like 13 cents a gallon or whatever the fuck, So yeah, it was just absolutely bizarre.
Another
And
interesting thing.
There are
sorry.
a couple other bands over there that you'll want to look up. They are no longer active, but Beast in the Field.
That's a great name for a band.
Beast in the Field is a 2-piece. They are the loudest band I have ever seen in person, and I have seen Motorhead and Manowar. So, that tells you a lot.
Yeah.
It's two little bitty. Well, it's one little bitty dude playing guitar, and one giant human mountain playing drums. And they come out and like on the ticket it says you will be issued earplugs. Wear them, and they're not kidding.
Like disaster area.
I actually was. Oh yeah, I was actually physically injured at a show. I had my sternum separated by sound pressure, which I mean I got to give props there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It hurt like hell, but that was pretty cool.
That
And
is
yeah,
pretty
so
cool.
there's some weird fucking shit over there.
There's an interesting bit about the Bay City Rollers in that 2 of them were living together. And in the Bay City Rollers newsletter, they tell the fans what furniture and what curtains they bought that month. Back when
Okay.
you got the
I
newsletter
thought they all
physically
lived
posted
together in
to
like
you.
a band house.
No, it was 2 of them
I thought they
living
all-
together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nobody really clicked. Apparently. Yeah.
Yeah,
This-
I had heard a rumor that like somewhere in like the 80s, the whole band moved to America. I don't know for sure. But
It's
Yeah,
a
well,
very
Bay-
Bay City Rollers thing to move to Bay City, Michigan. So
Yeah.
I'm prepared to believe that you've got a Bay City Roller or 2 living there. But yeah, it was.
it's an absolutely crap town. It's one of those
I
towns
know,
you're like,
but it's a very them thing
why
to
is
do.
there a band
Crap,
name
no,
for this?
no,
They
no,
grew
no,
up
no,
in
no. You said
Paisley.
it's, you
So the
said
idea
it's a crap town. Compare it to Scotland, The majority of Scotland, no. Compare it to, like, what? You're gonna go move to LA and live with fucking wildfires? Sorry, no. I'm moving to there. Like, get fucked. Somewhere it snows for a little bit of the year. Great.
Yeah.
But they called themselves the Bay City Rollers purely because it was the most American thing that they could think of at the time.
Well done.
Find a map.
It just sounded so American, and I don't think they knew there was an actual Bay City.
Probably not, but there's a lot of that. Now, you have to remember, I've had a lot of weird run-ins with rock stars. Maynard James Keenan and I got into a fight in high school. And it was Maynard James Keenan, the wrestling team, and the entire football team versus my idiot stepbrother and I. That was the sides. These were the aggressors in this instance, and we won. I didn't do real good, but my brother had polio as a kid because, you know, redneck fuck from Indiana, so he basically lived on crutches. So he ends up looking like fucking Popeye, and he popped their quarterback not in the face. He hit him square in the middle of the chest and knocked him back and knocked 3 other guys over a railing, and it was on. And I'm like, God damn it, this is my fucking ride home. Do I want to walk 18 miles in the cold, or do I help this fucking idiot fight the entire football team?
Yeah.
So this is how I and Maynard don't get along. I am sitting directly above. I am 12 feet above G.G. Allen's blood. I have a sample of G.G. Allen's blood in the basement. It's on the stage that used to be in the ice pick. I know. Yeah, I have a weird life. What can I say? So if we ever need to clone G.G. Allen for some fucking reason,
yeah, I don't think it's going to happen.
Talk to me.
That's a pretty particular set of circumstances in which you need to do that.
Yeah, but the way things have been going lately, I'm starting to wonder if this isn't a half bad idea. Because let's face it, G.G. Allen versus Elon Musk, who's going to win?
I think any of us versus Elon Musk.
Well, I mean, yeah, but when you get right down to it, G.G. Allen is other. You never actually met G.G. Allen. You encountered him in the D&D random encounters sense of the word. And I didn't fucking know. Nobody warned me. We got hired to play the ice pick. Okay. We're standing out in the alley, and this dude standing next to me who's got his face tattooed and shaved bald and, you know, smells like he was living in a dumpster, decides to pee on my leg. And I'm like, well, that was fucking weird. You know, I dodge him and go back inside and get up on stage, and somebody beans me with a bottle. You're only supposed to throw cans, you fucks. No bottles allowed because they throw cans instead of applaud. Yeah. So you basically got a barrage of cans because, you know, classic punk. We were the I can talk. CBGBs of the Midwest.
Yeah.
And the acoustics in there are terrible. If you ever want an experience, look up on YouTube G.G. Allen and the Murder Junkies live at the Ice Pick. The stage they are standing on is in the basement.
Awesome. Yeah.
What good punk venue didn't have shit fucking acoustics?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing.
It made the music better.
You had to be able to afford to replace all the shit every week if you were hosting punk bands.
Yeah. Painted with the cheapest fucking theatre paint you could get, always black. And then shit scrawled everywhere type thing. Yep. I think we're at time, gentlemen. Please, thank you.
It was bare. It was bare drywall.
It was bare.
So yeah, Digital Whiskey has a bit in the chat.
Yeah.
Before we go out.
Yep. The update to the tension rods.
Yeah. The spiky things.
The spiky things.
Them up
yeah.
Yep.
What's the rule about what?
Stick weld.
Nah, it's fucking shit to stick weld, mate. Yep, it's fucking shit. It's a pain in the ass.
It's real easy. No. Dude, those were the easiest welds I did with my stick welder ever.
It's easy to weld. It's hard to make it look nice when you weld it with a stick welder. Let's put it that way. As opposed
Yeah,
to
well,
as
I
opposed to like
just
walking
need
a
to
fillet
be
of a TIG
strong.
weld in without even fillet. You're not actually welding it because you're not even using fucking filler. But like the difference between like they will work. I'm not suggesting they won't work. I'm not suggesting you haven't done a fine job. What I'm suggesting is the difference in looking at your welds and saying, had you had a TIG welder and you'd sat down for 10 minutes, even without a filler rod, you just walk the fillet in type thing around them type thing with a TIG welder, they would have looked perfect, and they wouldn't have been any use to you type thing. Yeah, but what's the rule about all of boiler making? The rule about all boiler making is that a grinder and bog filler make everyone a fucking boiler maker, because that's all boiler makers know how to do is grind and fill things full of bog. You know, that's all it is. Yeah, boiler makers can't make boilers anymore. They're all
Hey.
fucking stupid, right? I'm allowed to say this because I'm a trained blacksmith, right? Boiler makers can't make boilers anymore, so the whole fucking trade is bullshit. And all they fucking do is just grind shit and put bog into stuff, put bog into holes. That's all they fucking do, right? Yeah, yeah, that's it.
Grinder and paint makes me the welder I ain't.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to take the stream offline now, guys. But obviously, as usual,
Bye,
hang out
everyone.
and chat. So thanks for watching. If you watched,
Bye,
or if you're
folks.
watching in the future, yeah, and we'll do it all again real soon.
I've got. Have fun, world.